The crab, which weighs a few pounds, could be worth $100,000 and the most mountain crabs I've ever seen. You never thought true wilderness survival could work so well. The crabs can't stop eating, and bananas and pomegranates for fruit. Weave fish cages to catch river fish, chop off the head and eat the guts. It's a pretty explosive way to eat in the whole wilderness world. This female lead Olly, 35-year-old divorced with 3 kids. She's a returning contestant from 21 days of original survival. The first day of the challenge, she had a sudden stomachache when she was fetching water. I got caught in the water, being despised by his teammates. Although she said she only pulled a little, there's not so much in an iron pot, but it all led to her dropping out. This time she returned to the challenge, vowed not to make the same mistake. I wouldn't tell my teammates if I had another leak. This time the hero Andy, he's a handsome ex-soldier. The photos sent to the show crew were really handsome. Personal hobbies are also very many. A handsome, rich man with no problem. Divorced young woman Olly is very much looking forward to living with this handsome man. I didn't know when she saw her partner. I realized it was a big loss. The promised rich and handsome turned out to be an old man. Andy says, the photos sent to the show were only taken about 18 years ago. Not very long, and not much has changed. At least they're all men. The show felt cheated, too. Ask him to send some new photos. He had to find photos taken in the past 2 years to make up for it. Olly couldn't go on and finish the game. There's an old man in a divorce stall. How would they survive in the wild? Andy brought a machete. Olly brought a fire stick. Even if she doesn't, the show will also provide fire sticks. Since she's got a fire stick, the show had to give them an iron pot. They need to walk 5 kilometers to a desert island off the coast to survive. The desert island of Tobago is thick with jungle. It's full of cute blood-sucking mosquitoes and a bunch of ants to get you on fire. What rainstorms and flash floods. At best, it sets the mood and opening day. They walked in the jungle. There are no roads. Andy was in the army. It's a decent environment for him. Olly behind me is supposed to be the hardest. Divorced young woman with 3 children. Crocodiles would have nightmares. Andy also prepared for the worst. The wet conditions of the jungle made Olly feel very uncomfortable. Here they see fresh water. The water comes down from the mountains. Andy just picked it up and drank it. I'm not afraid of Olly pooping upstream because Olly's right behind you. They put a little in an iron pan. Olly thinks you have to boil it anyway. She doesn't want to get loose again. Andy was concerned about Olly's stomach upset, so he had to boil the water for her as soon as possible. But it's very humid. He wasn't sure if he'd make a fire on the first day. They see a bigger stream here, decided to build a shelter here. They picked an open spot. There is no fear of flooding, and there are enough resources to build shelters for them. With the plan in place, Andy cut down bamboo and began to build the shelter. Olly is in charge of finding tinder for the fire. Banana leaves look good, but it feels very wet to the touch. Andy's cutting bamboo like crazy. In front of Olly fully show the charm of the old and strong. Olly thought to make a floor first. Even if the shelter is not built, they can also sleep on bamboo. Olly's planning a shelter for Andy. Nearby plant and leaves can be used as a roof. Make the bed first and sleep better at night. Soon they had the shelter set up. Although it looks very simple, but I can barely live. The next thing Olly wanted was to make a good fire. She can't stand the mosquitoes here, but in a humid environment, making a fire is 10 times harder than usual. Olly's holding the bottle and making fun of everything. It's hard to guess where some of the flames are. It went out before I blew it. Andy shook his head and shook it away. Olly said he had never tried to be in the wild without a fire. Either Andy gets the fire going today, otherwise, Olly's gonna have to set Andy on fire. Andy's feeling a lot of pressure right now. Olly, go find some dry tinder. Without a fire, I'm sure I'll be mummified by mosquitoes tonight. While she was collecting wood, bitten by ants 1,000 times a second. Andy didn't know what to do, did he? Olly's already been tortured and crying anyway. They're here for 21 days. It's only day 1. It was a really bad start for her. Last 2 challengers. To survive here on a desert island. We got off to a good start. How can it be so bad for them? Andy's been working hard on the fire, but it never worked out. Hit a few flames at a time. Can't succeed. It's not Andy. No, looks like it's really damp in here. Olly couldn't be of any help while he was being tormented by mosquitoes. Time comes tonight. Mosquitoes smell meat. Go wild. Just an hour. Olly has been attacked thousands of times by mosquitoes. It didn't affect Andy holding Olly at all. Time to the next day. Fat was out for a walk this morning. They finally got up, too. Andy's goal today is to perfect the shelter and fire. Start by fixing the roof of the shelter. Andy decided to seal off the shelters. There will be fewer mosquitoes at night, but the shelter that was created, keep out the rain at best. At night, they bite to death just the same. You can't boil water without fire. Olly had to simply filter the mountain water. I hope you don't have diarrhea. They have perfected the shelter in no time. The next most important task is the fire. It's all in Andy's hands. He scraped the bamboo scraps for tinder. It's like scraping on the bamboo. Get tinder and start a fire again. This time he succeeded in lighting the fire. With the fire, they can do a lot of things. At least you can boil water and cook food. It has certain anti-mosquito effect at night. Olly's confidence began to return. Fire is what keeps them alive here. There was some comfort in seeing the fire. Andy smiled a little more because he knows how hard this fire is. But this is just the beginning of survival in the wilderness. If you want to have a good life here, they still have a lot of work to do. The sky suddenly began to change. That's faster than a girlfriend changing faces. It's raining heavily tonight. Andy sleeps in the shelter with Olly in his arms. They had a hard time making the fire. Got wet again in a heavy rain. In its own and humid environment, it rained heavily again. It's like hiding in a snowy mountain with an extra fridge to cover it up. It's not so cold. It was incredibly cold. Time came to the third day. Get up in the morning. The fire had turned into a puddle. Shelters have been destroyed beyond measure. It was raining all night. Today they're starting to build shelters again. Andy thinks the plant and leaves are too fragile. He wants to build a strong shelter. I want to build a shelter out of bamboo. Only in this way can it not be damaged by the rainstorm. Olly, however, was different. She thinks it's just a matter of fixing the leak. Andy was stunned when he heard that. Olly doesn't just like diarrhea. That's how you do things. She felt that her energy was running out. She didn't even run the shelter. She didn't start the fire. What kind of energy she's expending? Andy did see that. This bitch wants to win by starving. Andy couldn't care less. I had to set to work by myself. He hollowed out the bamboo tube and put it over the shelter like this. The water will flow down. The shelter was renovated in no time. Hopefully, this will prevent the storm's crit damage. Andy had a great idea. Bamboo has very good drainage effect. The next thing is to find a way to start a fire. There are many bamboo tubes here, but it's very wet. Andy collects some small pieces of wood. Move it back to the shelter. Let dry, and you can burn it at any time. The new shelter can keep out the rain. A fire can also be burned inside. Andy plans to go to the river to look for some food. It's a tough place to live. I don't make it to day 21 without food. He searched along the river. Finally, he found many banana trees here, and there are a lot of ripe bananas. These bananas will last them for several days. Andy comes back with the banana. Olly was excited to fly. Olly with the banana. Let's just say Andy is the person she loves the most. Decided to reward him tonight. They were flaunting a ton of bananas in no time. I had a lot of bananas today. It feels really good to be full. They returned to the shelter and began to build a fire. The shelter was well stocked with firewood. Tinder's ready, too. Sparks lead to lightning in shelters. You want to die after one operation. I managed to get some small flames. I blew it out by mistake. Andy thinks the environment here is too humid. Freshly scraped wood chips soon become wet. What if Olly keeps saying there's no fire? Andy tried to put something in her mouth to put out the fire. No fire had to hold Olly to sleep at night. A night without rain. Olly was so tormented by mosquitoes that he couldn't sleep. No matter what, Andy is the man behind her. Time came to the fourth day. Olly was bitten all over last night. It's very cold at night without a fire. She needs to complete the shelter. Prepare to seal the shelter with leaves. Andy went back to the stream to find food, but he felt the fire was the priority. Without fire, Olly's not going to be here for much longer. Food not found. He had to collect some wood here. It's better than going home empty-handed. Andy scavenged wood everywhere. Put the wood in the sun to dry. These bamboo shells are also good for building fires. Dry it for later use. Sun should set in 3 hours. He went back to see if Olly had any diarrhea on his bed. By now, Olly had built a door. A door like this will keep out a little wind at night. Let's just say she made a little contribution. Andy thinks Olly is doing a great job. I feel very pleased. Building a fire is still Andy's biggest challenge. We've got 2 hours left before dark. Andy began to try to make fire again. The wood was dried in the sun. I hope we can start a fire. Just 2 of those. So he lit a fire. I didn't think it would be so easy this time. A fire makes it warmer to sleep at night. But he wasn't happy for long. The fire went out. Andy had to start the fire again. I mean, he's gonna lose his mind right now. Time came to the 5th day. Building a fire has made him very hopeful. He needs to spend time looking for food every day. He's sitting on a rock going crazy when he can't find any food. Just open the third eye. He can see where the food is. Andy opened the eyes of heaven and began to search. I saw a naked woman knitting. Olly is going to weave a fish cage. Went to the stream to catch some fish. I didn't know she had that skill. I really underestimated her hands-on skills. The sky began to turn bad again. Andy didn't find any food. I was going to bring her a log. This wood looks very fat. It is rich in turpentine. It's a good material for a fire. This wood definitely burns well. Carry it back for Olly to enjoy. Back at the shelter, he began to try again to make fire. Start with a layer of wood shavings for tinder. Put it all in the iron pan. Then try to make a fire. Sure enough, he soon lit it up. He took the fire into the shelter. Olly came back with the firewood. They were very excited to be living again. When you have fire, you have everything. The happiest, of course, was Olly. She thinks she'll sleep well tonight. Soon the sky began to rain heavily. Good thing they've perfected the shelter. Even if it's raining hard outside, it doesn't matter that they're in the shelter. Gradually, they started to get on track. The time came to the 7th day. After solving the fire problem, they have to think about food. Protein supplementation becomes their top priority. They came to the neighborhood and began to explore. A big crab was found here. They catch crabs with sticks. Such a big mountain crab. Enough to feed them until they're stuffed. They boiled the crabs in an iron pot. This crab soup just smells good. Been here a long time. Finally, you can eat meat. Protein is what they need most right now. Everyone ate very delicious. The crab meal gave them a great deal of confidence and let them eat very satisfied. Although the environment here is very bad, I really admire their positive attitude towards survival. The time came to the 9th day. They are going to catch crabs again today. It's been raining lately, but their shelter was very dry. Getting protein is still their top priority. They returned to the spot where the crab had been found. I'm gonna try my luck here. Suddenly, Olly slipped and fell. Well, that's just bad luck opening the fucking door and getting home. Olly sat on the ground in pain. Andy didn't know what to do, did he? Olly didn't dare move around. I'm afraid I won't be able to poop after I sprain my ass. She just wanted to go back and lie down. It looks like a pretty painful fall. Come out happy. Go back crying. Andy helped Olly walk back slowly. Then the doctor came to examine her waist. After a check, the doctor said a little more delay would have healed it. It's just Olly's psychology. Now there's a reason to lie down until the end. Andy's plans to eat crab today are going to fall through. At this point, Olly already had the idea of quitting, and Andy's out in the rain collecting wood. He paid a lot for it. It rains here almost every day. Olly was so sick in the shelter that he was about to fly. Can't sleep no matter what. Her desire to quit grew stronger and stronger. The time came to the 10th day. Olly still feels a pain in her back. Can't do anything right now. Don't want to do anything but poop. The thought of all the kids at home she had to take care of. She was desperate to quit. Finally, she decided to quit, even though the show says your back's fine and you can continue the challenge. But Olly didn't want to stay. Andy shook his head. I see my teammates are determined to leave. He was also very helpless. In the end, the show couldn't persuade her. She chose to withdraw from the competition. Andy feels like the last 10 days. I took care of her for nothing. Olly thinks Andy's a good guy. A little older, though. But if he makes it to 21 days and gets the $100,000 reward, she's willing to spend it with Andy. It's just that she's got back pain and wants to go back. Olly's heart is still here to challenge with Andy, so Olly's offer to spend the winnings with Andy isn't too much of a stretch. Sad to see Olly go. Andy stays to continue the game. Looks very lonely. He's actually over the worst of it. The rest of the day, he just had to forage for food. Andy is trying to adjust his mood. Put yourself in the right frame of mind to complete the challenge. It rains here almost every day. Andy's only consolation was that the shelter didn't leak. When it rains, he can't go out to work. I had to hide in the shelter and do nothing. Time came to the 11th day. He decided to put the fish cage made by Olly into the water. The stream is very big now. We don't talk about fish. Chances are the fish cage won't be found the next day. Andy used crab scraps as bait. After you put it away, just tie it up with a rope. Time came to day 12. Andy was going to check the fish cage first thing this morning. The river rises very quickly. It's a little dangerous to even try to walk there. He hoped to catch some fish to eat. Take a look at the fish cage. I did find a fish. This fish is not big, but it was enough to make Andy feel confident. Andy cut off the head of the fish. Squeeze all the supplements in the fish's belly into your mouth and eat them. It would be nice to add some hot sauce, the rest of the head, and eat it as a sashimi. Andy minced the fish. I'm going to put them in the cage and catch more fish. This kind of catching fish, eating fish shit and throwing fish away. It's very explosive in the whole wilderness world. Andy had no intention of making a fire that night, but it feels very cold. Had to use a backpack as a cover. Time came to day 13. 2 pigs are having breakfast. Andy sat down on the floor and went back to sleep. Can't sleep at night without a woman. Very sleepy during the day. The water is rising very fast. This will make it harder to catch fish. He stood here not sure if the fish cage was still there. I don't know if I caught a fish. I know his hair is the same all the time. Andy walked in the water with a walking stick. One mistake and you'll fall into the water and drink tons of water. A closer look reveals that the fish cage is missing. It was bound to the bamboo. Not only lost the fish cage, I lost a fish. I've lost my only fishing tools. Even if I get the bonus, I can't face Olly. The time came to the 14th day. Andy looks for a fish cage by the river every day. I hope I can get Olly's fish cage back. He found some coconut shells here, but no other coconuts were found. He returned to the spot where he had found the banana, but the banana has just bloomed and is not edible. Andy continues to explore nearby. I was surprised to see a pomegranate tree by the river. There are so many pomegranates growing on it. Andy picked some to fill his stomach. Pomegranate is very sweet. How much you enjoy eating and how much you embarrass yourself pooping. Andy is very adaptable, but a person always feels so boring. In the evening, the sky began to rain heavily again. Bamboo roofs are very practical. There's no fear of getting wet in there. I'm gonna have to eat guava for dinner tonight. The time came to day 15. Andy explores the jungle every day. The mud on the ground is like stepping on dog shit. The flood is getting bigger and bigger. A few more days of rain and flash floods are likely. The river prevented him from exploring further. Andy needs to maintain his shelter every day. The leaves that had been covered on the first day were beginning to wither. It's gonna leak if we don't fix it. He wished very much that Olly could be here working with him, but Olly just wants to split the prize money with him. I don't want to be in trouble with Andy. The time came to day 16. Andy sees some crab holes. He's going to dig up the crab. The crab holes are hollowed out, but there were no crabs to be found. Andy's exploring the neighborhood looking for protein. Here's hoping to find a spicy stick or a lizard. The daily hunger made him very tired. Now I'm just trying to get as much food as I can to survive. All I can think about is eating. The water level began to drop. He's going to check that the bananas are ripe. You have to cross the river every time, as hard as it is. But just finding food to eat is good. The banana has grown a little bit, but it's not mature. The time came to day 18. Now Andy was very tired. He looked for some worms on the ground. Protein needs to be replenished to get out of here. It was hard to find a small earthworm, even with dirty hands. He couldn't care less. Put the worm straight in your mouth. This is not enough to eat. After he had eaten, he began to explore the neighborhood again. Maybe it's real fatigue. Andy sat feebly on the ground. Perhaps even more terrible than hunger is loneliness. Been here for so long. He's actually starting to miss Mom. I felt very sad because I had not called my mother for a long time. Andy is suffering emotionally. It's actually hunger. When you're full, it releases dopamine and makes you feel happy. I can't sleep every night. The time came to day 19. Andy comes to the shore every day to check the water. The river will rise whenever it rains. Now Andy finds it very difficult. I didn't know survival in the wilderness would be so hard. Scarcity is not just hunger, and very lonely. Even if I could find something to eat here every day, I wouldn't be so bored. Andy just sat on the floor and felt bad. The main thing is a waste of time. Time came to the 20th day. I sleep until I get up in the sun. Wake up and just stand here and drink the northwest wind. There is no food to eat every day. All I can do is drink water. No fire. Water can only be drunk raw. You'll get a little more bacteria. You'll feel full after drinking. Just sit here and freak out. He wanted Olly to have diarrhea every day. Wait until the sun comes up. He wants to get some sun to replenish his energy. But it was very difficult to walk just a few steps. The sun shone on him, just charging him up. At this moment, I feel like DJ is pointing his butt at me. This is the moment I believe that light and farts exist together. Time came to day 21. Today is evacuation day. Just make it to the extraction point. You get a $100,000 prize. I thought about Olly every day for the first 20 days. Only today I didn't think about her. He drank a pot of water before setting off. We're ready to go. Even if the road is difficult, but with a $100,000 bonus. Climb to the extraction point. Eventually, he made it to the beach. I really admire Andy's adaptability. Don't give up easily when encountering difficulties. It's about constantly changing yourself to adapt to the environment. He deserves the $100,000. So who else is going to be here next time? Look forward to an update in the next video.